And that might change how much more, we're asking
Yeah.
each entity to consider.
Great point. Just know for this one, I have talked with both the school district and BID, and they have both okayed this increased contribution. So, but CDA, that will change. But just know that if we did end up adopting the 7,800 contribution level, that we have gotten an okay from each of the partners. But, we can talk about that.
If the CDA hasn't acted, but I mean, the general levy is what we're focused on here. The partners' percentage or contribution change.
Any other comments, questions?
So are you proposing TID 1 pay?
It's not TID 1, it's a transfer out of TID 1 to general administration of the CDA.
No, so no CDA budget, CDA has its own funding.
Yeah, it has its own, it's in its own entity, we set up our own procedures financially.
I think Shorewood today has made great strides in the 3 years almost that I've been on the board in terms of what Trustee Rosick was referring to as public information as opposed to marketing. So I feel it's a much more informative and even-handed publication than it has been in years past. So I do recognize that great improvement, but it's an added expense that I don't really support. I mean, I'd be fine with 42 pages and a little bit of increased advertising. The problem with it as a vehicle for public information is that it's very late. It's the date is so far in advance of when it comes out that it really can only be very sort of planning type issues as opposed to what's happening or an upcoming meeting or when to show up or, so I think in terms of getting information out to the public on things that they need to know about what's really happening in the village and how we're spending the village money, roads and the types of things that we really need to be communicating about. I think, we really need to focus on postcards, social media, that kind of thing. The Shorewood today, to me, Shorewood today, it's like a nice to have, but it's not necessary. To me, the most important thing is public information, not necessarily promoting new businesses and things like that. And in terms of public funding, and so I don't see it as, I don't support additional tax dollars going to it.
Can I clarify for a second? So you're proposing, or what you're stating is that you would support the magazine if it was self-sufficient. So like a small, right now, the advertising, covers a certain, can cover a certain page document, and that's what you're saying is
Well, I'm saying,
subsidy.
I always look, what is the public purpose? We're spending tax dollars, and what is the public purpose? I've always had a problem with the public purpose of marketing. I've always had an issue with that. I do recognize that there's a value in the Shorewood today, in that it gives education to people about what really has been the process we've been following on Wilson Drive, for example, or what are upcoming road projects that are coming in the summer or the garbage collection issue, how that's going to change. So but Shorewood today as a vehicle is really only able to address, very broad initiatives that we know are coming down the pike. Something like timely, like, go to the facilities meeting that the schools had tonight is more difficult to get into Shorewood today because there's such a long lead time for it. So, and Shorewood today does other things besides what I consider a valid public function of public information. It does more marketing things and, things that I would say maybe about 2/3 of what is put in there. It's not something that I see as being a governmental purpose. So I'm okay with I'm okay with, current level of support. But I'm just not, I think in terms of what I value of Shorewood today, I think we're probably going to be more effective with social media and direct communication with residents. So I just don't support any increase in funding for tax dollar funding for Shorewood today.
Okay, so I just want to be clear, because I want to know, I want to consider that. The tax, we do put in some subsidy right now that doesn't, because the advertising doesn't cover the entire publication costs.
Right.
There's two things I just need clarity on. One would be, would we say, okay, this is how much we're going to put in, and you're not supporting the increase year after year, even the 2% increase or whatever it may be, or is it more, I want to take away all of the public subsidy and let it survive on?
Well, yeah, I just don't support an increase. I mean,
Okay, and then
if
the second
the
piece is,
CEA was going to kick in, and that meant that we didn't have to put so much levy in, I would be fine with that.
okay, and then in addition to that, there's a second piece that you mentioned, which is if there is a savings at some point, rather than just putting it to the bottom line, would you want us to consider directing it to more communication, whether it's postcards or social media, but that more of the daily, what I think I'm hearing from you is the daily communications to the residents.
I think that, initially when marketing was discussed, and I was in the audience at that time, I wasn't up here, so I don't, maybe I wasn't paying attention as closely as I should have, but I think the conversations were that it was going to encompass both, marketing as in come to Shorewood for 18 hours, look at all the great fun things and how great Shorewood is, which is marketing. And it was also going to encompass, here are things you as a resident need to understand and know what's coming up and how your tax dollars are, they're two different things. I call this one public information and this one marketing. And I'm not sure that we do things, I would like to see the same level of attention to public information side. We do the village manager's memo, which is great. We have gotten better at postcards and notifying people about important meetings. I think the village has made some improvements, but I don't know that we've thought as comprehensively about how are we informing and communicating and engaging residents. I don't think we've thought about that issue as comprehensively as we have thought about how are we attracting people to come here and marketing type. So, and they're different. And I have thought that we were trying to do both. So I'm not sure funding-wise, but I certainly in terms of strategic planning and thinking comprehensively about our role and how we're dealing with residents, I would love to see more strategic planning and thought along that. We currently have a number of things we do, but I don't know how much we as a board have really discussed.
So from a budgeting perspective then, would that translate into increasing our marketing?
No, at this point, no. At this point, I'm just saying, I think it would be great to have some, and I don't know even that the marketing advisory committee is the right place because those people think about marketing. I don't think it doesn't seem in the presentations I've heard and the comments I've had, I don't know that group, their specialty is, branding and marketing and something that you could apply to, Cheerios and, and that's very different from our
Hard communication.
That's tonight we're looking at Shorewood today, we're not on.
So I would support,
What is it?
okay, I've already said what I would say. I don't support any increase in tax dollars. I support additional thought, not necessarily budget allocation, but additional thought about how we handle public information.
So is do you want on the list to return the village property taxes to 5,600? Is that, I thought I heard you
Yes,
say that.
I think that's what she said. Bring it down to a little.
I think we'll just combine that with the whole CDA discussion that was laid out. So I would just tie that to that discussion.
You also have the 12,000 in fund balance there, if you needed a couple grand, keep the levy stable. Again, I don't think anybody would lose any sleep over that. That'd be a fast way to get there.
Okay.
Let's see how the CDA thing, I think we gotta take a look at that, and I I think most of their funds are TIF related, so they got other revenue sources.
So they've got their own funding though.
Okay.
They've got a couple $100,000 that's planned out for various types of things. The board
You're-
authorized a year and a half ago for them to continue their engagements over the next 10 years.
So they have independent revenue, so I don't have to worry about any TIF legal
Correct.
constraints, and so we
So
need
that get us
to
approved by the CDA, and
bring it up to the
again,
CDA
it's
board.
not a lot of money. Hopefully maybe the chair can give us some directions on that.
Well, obviously, you'll work with Allison to put together a little proposal to take to the board, to the CDA, see if they'll agree.
All right, anything else?
Yeah.
Or we've got about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was locking the doors.
Anything
So
else
we're
we got
gonna-
for tonight, or?
All right.
So again, I appreciate everybody's time to go through these things. If you have anything, additional thoughts, stuff like that, backdrop questions, please let me know, and I'll try to provide whatever information I can for that. And Tyler has some items that he'll follow up with as well between now and the wrap-up. A lot of this will show up in a wrap-up presentation.
Okay.
So it's not, I mean, it's coming, it'll just be part of the wrap-up
So
presentation.
we're gonna go over the list on the 23rd
Correct.
and the wrap-up.
That's correct.
And I have a question. I have it written down, so I'm going to ask this before we all leave. We asked for a summary of the police department, police building construction, the breakdown of what we paid for, and what we still have left. I know the chief had said, oh, we can have he was leaning towards the presentation from a consultant, which would be more money. I prefer just a memo
Yeah.
with those breakdowns, and I would prefer it quickly, so that it doesn't come the day of the wrap-up.
It's scheduled for the 23rd.
The presentation.
Yeah, for the wrap-up meeting to be presented. It has the date of the wrap-up of phase 1, everything that was done there and shown on the floor plan. They also are preparing phase 2, what will be included in that, what the cost estimates are for each of the items in phase 2.
For the wrap-up
It had
meeting,
not been done, which is one of the reasons it's not available. It had been discussed, was a pencil sketch, but it had not been done. So we met last week, the construction manager's been brought in. He's now working on updating the floor plan and updating a spreadsheet with all the costs on it.
Okay,
For-
just quickly, I prefer not a presentation again. Trustee Blackhorse has made the point very clear that we should not, it's going to cost us more money by asking for presentations from consultants. So if there's a way, especially.
Well, I don't think we need to
time-
make the presentation.
Oh, I just,
The
that's
chief,
what I heard.
yeah,
from
the chief
Chief.
and I. No, the consultant is putting together, we've got to revise the floor plan.
Yeah.
Okay, we have as-built drawings, which were different than the original proposed, and we have the phase 2 floor plan sketch for the police department building.
Larry-
Phase 3 would be the community room.
but that work is in
That's all being
conjunction
put
with the
They have to do that.
upcoming project. That's not additional work. That's in preparation for the upcoming.
That's correct. This is
Okay.
needed for the upcoming project.
But the materials for the wrap-up meeting, because you'll have a lot of staff adjustments to the budget on some numbers, well, hoping a lot sounds, but you'll have a number of
Yeah, the
staff
rest-
updates to some of the budget numbers, and then a variety of written feedback,
I want it before.
and that will be out probably the Thursday before the wrap-up
Okay,
meeting.
and the reason I say that is, this is our biggest, one of our biggest expenses in our budget document, in our policy budget document.
It's not
And
gonna
so, it's a big, it's $1.5 million,
So if the consultant has to prepare
And
then.
the other doors locking? Do you want to lock the door?
No, the consultant has to prepare the document. They didn't have, they had discussed conceptually how this would be done. They have a sketch, an as-built sketch, which needed to be updated on the plans, showing exactly the way the
We need that
phase.
though. We have input, I mean, we obviously
Phase
put in the
two.
budget a dollar amount based on something. So all I just need is how much have we spent? They have that already.
Yes.
Submit it monthly.
Yes, it'll be a final rundown of cost for phase 1. It will be a projection of cost for phase 2. I also asked them to include in a separate column the roof cost, because the roof is going to have to be dealt with sooner rather than later. And we're putting a lot of money in the building and the roof. He's had 3 contractors up there that looked at it. They've all said it's going to have to be replaced sooner rather than later. So let's get it on the table and talk about it. We'll have all of that for you in time for that meeting. I wish we could have had it sooner, but as of a week ago, when David raised that, I went over, met with the chief, they had a concept, but they had not updated any of the plans
We don't need
or any of the
plans.
cost estimates.
All right, so you're gonna
Yeah,
provide.
you need a floor plan and a spreadsheet, otherwise the spreadsheet makes no sense. Okay, if you want to see what they did in phase 1, what they're going to do in phase 2, what the cost of each phase is. So you need the floor plan and the cost estimate for this to make any sense.
And so what we were provided in our budget document, they didn't base on real costs. They just,
I
You're saying it
believe
wasn't
it
done.
was mostly, from what I understand, was mostly the 15 material with some of the original presentation materials. Is that correct, Mark?
And this,
So you have
the
not
chief is
seen-
preparing a document to share with the